Hello and welcome to my first narrated devlog about the game I'm currently developing. So what we're seeing here is basically a game inspired by all those classical artillery games where you play usually in 2D from the side and you provide an angle to fire your mortar or similar, and you try to adjust the aim until you hit the enemy. In this game, we've taken that gameplay to a third person perspective in full 3D. What you see here, by the way, is the core gameplay of this game, the artillery duels, and you can see that this guy has suffered a bit of damage because the previous shot that you saw from the other team hit him, and you also saw those craters on the left. Now this guy is firing back, and very important here is that the gameplay is a bit different from the gameplay in the classical 2D games because you have limited field of view, and spotting becomes a little bit more tricky here. Now what we do is use the dot in the middle as a crosshair to aim, and yeah, here we see the weapons wheel as well. We choose a weapon. We have many other weapons besides artillery. Here you can see a drone. The drone is a quite powerful way to not only harm opponents, but primarily for spotting as well, to account for the limited field of view that we have in the third person perspective. So we try to not make the drone too powerful because it's much easier to use than the artillery. The artillery deals much more damage. And what I'm using here is mostly the cluster mortar, which when it hits the ground splits up into several smaller shells that also explode. It's a very useful weapon when we have difficulties aiming precisely. Another set of tactics that you can see in this video is how we're using reverse slopes to take cover. And one reason this is important here is that besides artillery we also have sniper rifles and a bazooka and so on that allows you to hit enemies with more direct fire, flat trajectory fire. So you're seeing the players always try to take cover behind things after their shots. When a shot is fired, there is a little bit of time for the player to move and so on, to use that opportunity for both spotting and for taking cover after a shot. Since this is turn-based, this can be used in various ways tactically. And here you can also see all the craters that are forming here dynamically based on all artillery hits that we've had so far. So the core artillery-based gameplay continues. We really try to incentivize the player to use artillery a lot and not use the flat trajectory weapons, which are a little bit less interesting in this type of game with a turn-based gameplay. Drones are really tempting to use. We'll probably nerf their power a little bit in the final build compared to what you see here, where it deals about 20% damage, to really incentivize use of artillery and reward that for players that take that route instead. Here you can see the sniper. We use trajectory, a gravity impacted physics simulated sniping here to not make it too powerful. It's already very powerful. It's one of the weapons that deal the most damage in the whole game. Also, please note the yellow pulsating effect. Mentioned that yet. It's used to basically restrict movement of players in each turn, because if we didn't have that, players would be able to just walk up to enemies and use the dynamite, which is one of the most powerful weapons, even more powerful than the sniper rifle. So players are limited in how far they can walk in each turn, and that's important for having a balanced gameplay here. So I keep using the cluster mortar. It is a little bit less powerful than the normal mortar in the first hit, but it kind of makes up for that by having multiple hits when you are a little bit more unsure of the aim. But if you are able to aim very precisely, then the normal mortar is preferable because it deals more damage per shot. Also note that we have multiple teammates that we cycle through on each side. That is of course as well to make gameplay a little bit more skill based and less based on luck. If you get a lucky hit on one guy, you still have two more in this case. You can actually configure the team size between 1 and 5 right now. I'm not sure we'll keep the ability to configure it as 1 in the final build because, again, that makes gameplay too much luck oriented. Now, falling into a crater like this can happen. This is actually a local multiplayer game that I played against myself. I actually kind of prefer that mode when playing alone over single player because it means somewhat richer tactics. We saw there how to deal with falling down into a crater like that and not being able to come up was one of the two ways we can deal with that, and that is by using a tunnel drill. That is also a weapon that can be used to kill enemies. And here we see actually some precision drone flying straight into that tunnel. That's something you have to keep in mind when you use the tunnel drill, that players can fly in drones if they really can maneuver it with that kind of precision. Here we see a bazooka. Bazooka actually has a deeper penetrating effect than, for example, mortars. If you want to also dig a tunnel, it takes a few more hits, but what we're seeing here is basically this hill that this guy is taking cover behind is heavily reduced by as cover by these rocket launcher hits. Using the ability to deform the terrain and dig holes can also be done as a way of taking cover in various ways. But again, you have to be careful about precision drone flight. Forming a tunnel such that it points backwards, so to speak, away from the enemy. It can be very useful for cover early on in the game when players are far apart, because the drone has a maximum flight capacity, and usually if you go from one end of the map to the other end, you will run out of a battery and it will just fall down to the ground. That's another gameplay element we added in order to create some depth to it and not make the drone too powerful. So you can't also fly in the wrong direction for a long time and then just go and make a big arc and fly back again. If you're failing at the maneuvering, you basically used your chance because you ran out of battery. Now this is of course countered by using the movement ability to get one step closer at a time. So here you see an interesting way of using cover, by the way. This guy is jumping into a deep crater to hide from sniper fire in the next turn. Also, back in the tunnel, we saw one player accidentally die due to not having checked properly that there wasn't any roof above. Using a mortar when there's something above is of course going to make the mortar explode close to the player. I, as a player here, incorrectly assessed the situation. So moving forward here, adjusting the angles can be a little bit tricky, but the learning curve for that is not that massive. Of course, the idea is that this game shouldn't be too easy, so you can always predict exactly what angle you should use for the artillery. That's part of the gameplay, a core part of it, to adjust and observe, and also realize that you're under pressure from an opponent that is also doing the same, and you need to be quick enough and make trade-offs between, for example, should I use a safe weapon which has a high likelihood of hitting, or should I go for the very powerful artillery but need a few turns to adjust the aim. So we've seen this guy try sniping for a bit, and now he finally scored a hit. The sniping is quite powerful as it is, so we try to limit the effectiveness of that by having this physics modeled bullets that actually fall down. And here we got an interesting hit where from the drone, where the guy basically fell into a crater again. So he has to get out somehow. And again, the tunnel drill is one of the ways of doing that. Another way is to use a spade, which is not shown in this video, but we have shown that in an earlier Devlog video, an unnarrated one. So this guy basically dug a hole to get out of the crater. And now I'm going to see something quite interesting here. This guy is going to attempt a precision drone attack flying into the tunnel. So he's making a wide arc. I said before that you couldn't do that when you were in the other edge of the map, but this guy is close enough, and he basically managed to do that and score a hit. So this is something to be careful about when using tunnels. Drones are really useful for flying into that if you can maneuver it properly. But this guy forgot to take cover properly afterwards, and actually the game ends like this.